Welcome back to California Cooking. Today, pasta is the star of the show. Celebrity chef Scott Conant has a new cookbook. It's called Peace, Love, and Pasta. So I'm trying out a recipe from his new book. I'm also gonna make a couple of easy pasta dishes that'll hit the spot any night of the week. I'm such a fan of celebrity chef Scott Conant. I've been watching him on Chopped for years, so I had the chance to chat with him about his Food Network star friends and, of course, his passion for pasta. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for taking the time.
Oh my gosh, I'm a huge fan. Food Network fans, and I'm one of them, who literally, I think, spent a couple of decades watching so much of the Food Network that it really did help me become a home cook, hands down. But I'm sure you hear a lot from people that they feel the same way, especially about you, Scott. You're on like every show on the Food Network.
It's fun to be part of, and it's a great family and a great network of chefs.
And I think that's what also so special for people that are fans. It really does look like you guys are buddies. You go out to dinner together, you support each other's restaurants. Like, you know, that seems like it's the real deal.
Yeah, it's genuine, it is.
I know you're buddies with Bobby Flay. You're always on, Beat Bobby Flay and stuff like that. Is there a Food Network chef that is, I think, the best at getting everybody together?
I would say Guy is really good at that.
Yeah.
Whenever there's some kind of an event, Guy is always making sure that everybody's kind of included and inclusive and things like that.
We know you from TV, but we didn't know you were going to be like Derek Jeter or something.
Well, that's what my ego tells me. All my coaches may have a completely different idea. Right. But yeah, my first love was baseball, and I started cooking. And by the way, as a side note, I went to a vocational school in Waterbury, Connecticut. Yeah. That's where I grew up. Shout out to Waterbury. I wanted to be a plumber, but I couldn't get into the program. Really? So as a second choice, they put me in culinary arts. And so, yeah, I wasn't playing shortstop for the Yankees. And I'm not, fortunately, I'm not a plumber either, so.
Look, people find their passion through all kinds of ways, and that was your way, but you said that the kitchen was that environment that kind of made you feel like you were on a team again.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, that camaraderie, that sense of team.
This book, by the way, Peace, Love, and Pasta, Scott, it's so great because you can tell when you look at these recipes how much thought went into each recipe that's in here, but also, the care that you take in all the ingredients, that it's authentic, but it's simple and it's manageable for the home cook. So tell me, because when I read the intro to your book, it really starts with talking about how that Sunday dinner, because you're an Italian American, was kind of quintessential to everything.
There were a couple things there, right? I mean, number one, watching my mother, my aunts, my grandmother cook for hours in the kitchen. And they were seemingly in the kitchen all day. And then we would sit at the table seemingly all day as well. I mean, the days were longer when we were younger, clearly. Yeah. But I think there was a coming together. There was that just a deep appreciation for family, for getting, just being together, bonding with one another, and what was on the table. And there's that sense of nostalgia, I feel like, that I really wanted to tap into with this book. And the nostalgia that I'm creating with my own children.
Talking about your kids in the book, you reference your wife, that she's Turkish, and then kind of introducing those flavors and those foods to, not only did she introduce them to you, but now to your children. And you've kind of, incorporated all of that with your kids, which is the great thing about like handing down tradition, right?
It's true. The funny thing was me making these recipes and testing the recipes, and my mother-in-law being at the house and kind of correcting me throughout the process. So that's something you don't see in the book, but that was, for me, one of the more special parts. Because she was like, no, that's not how you
that's
do it
funny.
Like this.
That's probably scarier than any chopped judge, mother-in-law in the kitchen with you.
100%. I'm not going to make her angry.
Scott, I decided, I was looking through, the recipes, and I said, okay, I want to try to make the meatballs with the sauce, but it's very different approach. I've never made sauce this way, and I've never made the tiny. So talk me through that recipe a little bit.
those polpettine,
Yeah.
now we call them polpettine, right? Because it's so much sexier than saying little meatballs.
Yeah.
So the polpettine, I think the key to this, number one, is the ricotta, the panade, and the meat itself, right? You want to get that balance just right. And try a couple, sample them, sear it off a little bit, taste it. That's going to be really important.
Okay.
The other thing is when you're actually browning them and I'm doing this because I'm sauteing
right.
meatballs in my mind's eye right now, these little polpettine. Olive oil, butter, allow that to kind of melt together, put the meat, allow your pan to get hot, put the polpettine inside there, and brown them on the exterior. There's so much flavor that's going to come from that. And then you're going to add it to the tomato sauce that you made.
Now, the sauce also, kind of unlike maybe your traditional kind of a marinara sauce, this starts with some browning of meat initially to get the sauce kind of to have this heartier feel, right?
It's really about that development of flavor, right? It's about that beautiful browning, caramelization of the meat, really working that deep into that tomato sauce that you're cooking. And then later, so that end result is really, it's worth it. It's worth it. It's delicious and unctuous and craveable. And it's all the things that you want from dinner, ultimately.
Scott, thank you so much. It was great to see you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Take care. It was so much fun talking to Scott. He has such a passion for pasta. So coming up, I'm gonna make one of the recipes from his book. It's his take on spaghetti and meatballs. Then I'm cooking up an Asian-inspired pasta with salmon and a lime coconut curry sauce. And it's a pasta recipe that went viral on TikTok. I'm recreating tomato feta pasta with a few extra yummy ingredients. Spaghetti and meatballs, it is one of the classics, a family favorite, but Scott Conant's take on this Italian classic is extra special. Take a look. I just got off the Zoom with Scott Conant. He's exactly how he is on TV, which I always love. But his book is great. And as I was looking through the book, I thought, what can I make in here? He's got so many beautiful recipes. I just went with kind of the simple basics, which is spaghetti and meatballs. So I'm gonna try my hand at that. And it starts with some ground beef. And this, I did 80-20. He calls for prime beef chuck ground. Possibly something you wanna talk to the butcher about, but I just got regular ground beef. To that, kind of all of the things that I've put in meatballs before, with the exception of ricotta. I can't recall ever putting ricotta in my meatballs, so I'm looking forward to that. In here, I've got one piece of white bread soaked in milk. Basically squeeze the milk out of your bread, and this is your breadcrumb. So you just take the softened bread, and that's it. Then you got your breadcrumbs. One egg, a clove of garlic. The ricotta, he has 1/3 of a cup. And because I'm halving the recipe, I'm just gonna eyeball it. Parmesan, grated Parmesan. 3 tablespoons, so half of that, 1.5 tablespoons. Some fresh parsley, chopped up. And we'll put this recipe on Instagram, since I am halving everything. Dried oregano, do about 1/2 teaspoon of dried oregano. Some salt, pretty good amount of salt. That's it, super easy. Wooden spoon, and you're gonna just combine. You want everything, and you also don't want to compact it too much because then your meatballs could become a little tough. You just want to test a meatball before you make all of this, and if it's under seasoned. And so this is about the size of his meatballs. And then I'm gonna cook one up and see that I got the seasoning right. So that's how quickly it cooked. I cut it in half just to brown the inside. Don't need to fix a thing. Time to make some meatballs. A lot of meatballs. Checking on my sauce, and you can tell the difference kind of braising the meat in the tomatoes makes, because it's this really dark red, beautiful color. The smell is intense, and the meat has fallen off the bone. So it has given all this flavor to the sauce. So we're gonna blend that up in a minute. We'll let it cool. But before we do that, we're gonna cook up our mini meatballs. To our pan, butter and olive oil, and we'll just add in these little guys, and they're gonna cook very fast. Time to cook our spaghetti. So I've got a big pot of boiling water, a big fat pinch or two of salt, and then spaghetti. I'm gonna put about half the pack in. Spaghetti going in, 10 minutes. Our sauce has been cooking a little over an hour, and it started off kind of with your typical flavors that you would use, maybe some celery, onion, garlic, and then you build the flavor with the meat, which is unusual, something I've never done before, but it adds so much depth of flavor. Then I added Roma tomatoes, quartered, 10 of them, and a half a can of San Marzano crushed tomatoes. And this is what we have about an hour later. Plenty of salt as well. So to that, once we took the meat off the bone, as much meat as we could get off the bone, we're now gonna take our little hand mixer, blender, and blend our sauce. Oh yeah, meatballs going in. Oh my gosh, that looks amazing. I'm just gonna add my pasta directly to the pot. I'm gonna just coat everything. I don't wanna break up our meatballs, so I wanna be gentle. That is one beautiful pot of spaghetti. I can't wait to taste this. Let's see how we did. So good, you guys. And the perfect little meatball, one bite, that, really good. Thanks, Scott. Between the mini meatballs and that slow cooked sauce with the braised meat, that dish is so good. For Scott's complete recipe, you can follow us on Instagram. Okay, from an Italian pasta to an Asian-inspired dish over noodles, it's salmon in a lime coconut curry sauce. So when thinking of something yummy to make for dinner, I've been making a lot more fish than I probably have in years past. So what I'm gonna make, I saw a version of this on Pinterest where it was this just kind of salmon fillets in a coconut curry kind of spicy broth on rice, but I'm gonna do it with kind of a vermicelli noodle, which is a really thin pasta. So I'm gonna start with the aromatics, I guess they would call them. For the ginger, obviously you peel it. There's a couple ways to peel it. Some people use the back of a spoon. I just run the knife around, getting the fibrous part off. So I'm gonna use, they call it like a finger of ginger, the lemongrass. See, it's tough. And you also peel away some of the tougher, you know, like this is having a hard time to chop, so you start peeling away bits that aren't chopping. There you go. Some red onion, maybe a quarter of the red onion, just fine dice. And then garlic, I'm gonna do probably 2 cloves of garlic, maybe more. Okay, so now we've got our flavor base. Let's go over to the stove and sear off our salmon, and then I'll show you how to make the sauce. So I've got my cast iron skillet heated up, a little bit of coconut oil in there, and then season your salmon, salt and pepper, and you want to get a nice sear. So in it goes. So I just want to get a sear, nice and brown on one side, and then flip. So I'm not going to cook it all the way now, but I'm going to create the sauce and let it cook the rest of the way in the sauce. So just enough you want to get those little brown bits. I'm going to take our salmon out. It got nice and crispy on the bottom. That's what we want, but it's still not cooked in the middle. So to our pan, which has enough oil right now, I'm going to add in our lemongrass, onion, garlic, and just get all of that nice and soft. I just happen to have these pretty little cherry tomatoes, yellow ones. To that, coconut milk, whole can. Tablespoon of fish sauce, the coconut aminos, probably about a tablespoon of that. Our chili garlic paste. Okay, let's give it a stir. Fish goes back in, and you just nestle it in there and let it continue to gently cook. In goes our pasta. 2 minutes. 2 minutes, pasta goes right in to the pan. Done. Dinner is served. That was fast. I would say this is a 20-minute meal, and I snuck a little bite of the pasta. The sauce is so good. And then a couple of things that I just finish it up at the end. You could serve it right out of the skillet, but squeeze a lime, and then cilantro, and then the red chili, I think just looks pretty as you just scatter these on top. That's it. Dinner is served. That dish has got it all. It's spicy, it's tangy, and it has a touch of sweetness from that coconut milk. It's so good, you gotta try it. Coming up, not sure if you've tried that tomato feta pasta that's become quite the sensation on the internet. I'm making my own rendition with a few extra ingredients. Then Levi is giving us an update on our kitchen renovation. That's coming up next. It's the viral recipe that is so good, it reportedly caused a shortage of feta cheese in Finland. I'm making my rendition of baked feta pasta. I have to admit, I've never been on TikTok. I don't know how it works or what it does exactly, but I do know that a recipe came off of TikTok and it became this kind of viral sensation. And it's involving feta cheese, where you bake feta cheese with some cherry tomatoes and then you mix it with pasta and it becomes this kind of creamy, tomatoey sauce. So I'm gonna try it, but I'm gonna do a few tweaks to it. I'm gonna add some eggplant and some shrimp and kind of fill it out a little. Baking pan, and I get some as good of feta cheese as you can find at the store. This one comes soaked in a liquid, so it's a nice big block of feta. I just want to get the moisture off of it so it gets nice and brown. So we'll put that into our baking dish. Beautiful cherry tomatoes. I have a mix right now. I've got the yellow, the orange, the red. Doesn't matter, whatever you like. This is my twist. Some eggplant. An eggplant, when you cook it long enough, like we're going to with this, it breaks apart. It almost just becomes another layer of creaminess, really. I'm gonna just cut it into bite-sized chunks and add those, kind of keep it around the size of the tomatoes. I'm just gonna use half an eggplant. At least a half a cup of olive oil. Seems like a lot, but really the whole idea of this is kind of like confit. When you think of confit, that means things are slow cooked in oil, which is basically what's creating your lovely sauce. I'm gonna throw in a few cloves of garlic because these two will cook down and get all nice and soft. I'm gonna sprinkle oregano, some pepper, some salt on the tomatoes, and then we're gonna let this cook at 400 degrees for about 30 minutes. But before it's done, I have some shrimp that I'm gonna add on just for a couple of minutes in the oven, and then we'll mix it with our pasta. One little thing I'm gonna do before I drain my pasta, reserve a little pasta water. I might need to mix it in to our sauce, so. Okay, time to drain. The feta, tomatoes, eggplant look so good. They're almost done, almost ready to come out of the oven. But before we do that, I have my peeled and deveined shrimp, and I'm gonna just add a touch of olive oil. And shrimp cook so fast. So, a little bit of salt. I'm gonna grate a clove of garlic in there, and just a touch of lemon zest. Mix that up, and then here's what we do. Place those around, and this will cook 6 to 8 minutes. Our shrimp and eggplant and feta tomato mixture has baked in the oven, and this is what I guess the whole thing is about this recipe and why it's so easy. It's one pan, and then the feta just becomes this creamy, lovely mixture and creates a sauce along with the juice of the tomatoes. The eggplant is soft, and that's it. I've got my bowl of penne. Here's what we're gonna do. Scoot our bowl over. Let's mix it in with our penne. And this is why I reserve the pasta water, because if it's a little too thick, you just add in a little water. But this looks perfect. And that's it, you guys. On top, chopped up some fresh basil, and dinner is served. Yum. I like the idea of adding the eggplant and the shrimp because it kind of becomes a whole meal, but love this idea. Okay, on to our home reno. Told you about the walk-in pantry that we were building. Well, Levi wants to show you around and give you an update on the progress.
Hi, this is my new cabinet. Then my new table, so you could cut, and the coffee stuff is gonna go over there that you're seeing. And then right there is gonna be a lot of pans that has bean sauce. This is gonna be a plug. This is gonna be lights. And turn on the lights up there. That's about it.
Thanks for the tour.
Maybe he's been watching too much HGTV because I did not tell him to do that. Well, we'll keep you updated on our progress and see how it goes. Thank you guys for being with us, and we'll see you next week.
And when you cabinet, what you're looking at, that is that has beans and sauce and pop and